Hey guys, it's Mike with another King Arthur Legends Rise video. I literally just finished recording the last video, so that's why I'm wearing the same shirt with the same hairdo. Literally like a minute ago I signed off on that one and was so excited to move into this one. Today what we're going to do is we're actually going to take Valla's chivalries from 1 all the way to 5 if we can make it happen. I'm pretty excited about that. We're doing that for 2 reasons. The first reason is her entire kit opens up as we move through. We start getting attack gauge manipulation here at Chivalry level 3. On Chivalry level 4, that's where we move the changes buff removal to buff explosion, and we're going to be able to play with that to see what kind of damage we can get out of it. And then Chivalry level 5 opens up the rest of her kit, and then you just get stats after that. But also by getting her to Chivalry level 5, if we come back out into the events, we actually do get a free copy of her by getting her advanced that far. So if we do reach Chivalry level 5, we're going to get a copy of her plus a little banner here, which is kind of fun. Speaking of which, I should probably change it out. I think I still got the birthday banner up. But if we do get her there, we're going to go ahead and put that banner up there and get her all the way to Chivalry level 5, which then we get the free copies that'll push her on to Chivalry level 6 actually. So that's going to be pretty solid for us as far as that goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over into Lake Avalon. We do have 27 rate up summons, and then we have crystals. So we're hoping to get a minimum of 2 copies of her. Because I do over here have, where are we at here? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. We have memory stones over here that we're going to be utilizing to finish up whatever we need. So we can buy one more from the shard shop if we need it, but ideally we only have to use 3, and we can start stacking those up for the next one. I haven't really gone after 2 of the last 3 champions, so I was able to stack these up pretty good. Lagertha, I did go ahead and push her all the way to Chivalry level 5 and did the same thing that we're going to do here for Valla. On Goofy over here, the Sun Princess, I didn't push on, probably a mistake now because there's a lot of synergy with the Hound faction with Valla that I didn't know about. So ideally you could kind of get her, I think Chivalry level 3 and 4, like they're going to do a lot of things. 4 actually helps her set up her own damage because she does extra damage when she has protection on. So these chivalries probably would have been useful. I just don't like this champion. I struggle with her. I think she's just completely out of place, but she's going to be useful, and you're going to have to, I guess we're going to have to get used to her. Hopefully Netmarble goes back and actually just reskins her and puts something more appropriate to the theme. I don't know, the Goofy Duck, the Popsicle, the Bikini, it's just too much for me. I could probably get around the Sun Hat, I guess, maybe, but I don't know. It's just completely out of place. But anyway, so those 2 champions, I did not go after extra chivalry, so I do have a few more of these memory stones, but I do like to save as many of them as I can, specifically for times like this. I do think Valla has the potential of being an absolute beast. But I don't know yet. I haven't played with her as we level her up. So let's go ahead and start leveling her up, seeing how that's what we're here for. No, not you. Get out of here. We're going to go to Valla here, and we're going to go into the Lake Avalon and hopefully get a little bit lucky here because we don't want to blow through all of our crystals if we don't have to. If we do have a good pace coming out, we might try to get 3 copies of her through crystals to save those extra memory stones. Maybe so that I could use them for Aqua Guinevere, even though it's going to be painful to do it. But anyway, so we'll see how we do there. Again, as a reminder, we do have the chance to get Claudius, who's in the Hound faction, does some damage as well as Morgan, which unfortunately I am maxed out on my Morgan now. Didn't think about that. I maxed her out instead of Nika. Probably should have maxed Nika out, but we also have the Nika here, so that could be a thing as well. And then Clarison also. So Clarison and Claudius would be the ones I'd be most excited to see. Morgan, I guess I would sell her into the shard shop to get stuff. I mean, I guess it's the best thing you can do when you have extra copies. And then Nika, we are on Chivalry level 9 with our Nika, and we are 70 stones away from upgrading her. So if we did get a copy of Nika, now we have 30 stones that aren't doing anything. So I'm not entirely sure if that would be a good thing or not, but obviously extra chivalries is extra chivalries. We'll take all of it. So Claudius and Clarison is what we're hoping for here, but let's go ahead and get started. Without further ado, we did just reset pity, so we need 60 to go. It did take me all the way to pity for my first copy of her, but I did get 2 other legendaries along the way, so 3 legendaries total in 60 pulls, so can't complain there. Got some rares though. Our Isol. Oh, we're getting extra things down here too. That's an added perk here. As you're pulling extra pieces, you do get a lot of extra goodies down there. So that is just a little added perk as you're pulling. But you got Isol here, Gareth, and Kieran. We're gonna move on here. Hopefully, see some gold early. Get us started on the right foot. Please don't take us all the way to pity. The game has been freezing for the last couple times that I've been doing summons, so it seems to glitch out one time and then it kind of fixes itself, but we'll just sit here and wait for it, or I can bring you back. But I really want to see if we do get that legendary flex. Here it comes. Oh, and we did. It was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. No pity for us. Let's see who we get. Do we get a copy of her, or do we get a copy? Greed always returns to haunt you. That is Clarison, so that is awesome. So hopefully we can get a couple legendaries on our way to 60, just like last time, and get those extra chivalries going on. And then we also picked up a Cormac. Moving on to chivalry level 5 for our Clarison, so we're making some headway there. So that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and get back in here and see if we can get lucky with a little back-to-back action. No, not this time. That's all right. Let's see about how many rares we get. We got 3 rares. Arduin, who else do we get? We got another Cormac and another Arduin, so that's pretty fun. All right, let's move on to our 40th pull. And so we're not guaranteed anything here. No. All right, let's see. 1 rare. Oh, they did us dirty. They did us dirty. It's Nicholas with his comb over. All right, moving on to the next 10. This is our 50 pull. Man, it went right through it. I don't even know what I did there, but we got Urians there. I have seen some folks using Urians in the current Hall of Conquerors, I believe on the new boss, Thrym. So I'm going to take a peek at it. I think they got him in his Storm. Could have been his Flame. I gotta look at it, but he could be somebody that I'm looking to build in the upcoming video. Here we go. I hit our pity, so we're gonna guarantee 1. Maybe we even squeak out a second one. Would be kind of fun. Let's see here. It has been a while on the account since we've gotten 2 legendaries in a single pull, but that is going to be our Valla. So that is awesome. We got another copy of her on the account. That's chivalry level 1. Again, we're gonna hope to get chivalry level 3. But we're going to go until we at least get chivalry level 2, because that's what we need, and then we could buy that extra memory stone. So we're going to keep on keeping on. I'm trying to think if we can actually make it. If it does take us all the way to pity, we're going to go through all of our crystals to do this, but I do think this champion is worth it. So we're going to find out. Maybe I'll be disappointed, but I think this champion is going to be worth going through all my crystals. They actually stacked up pretty quick while I was on vacation. I wasn't really spending anything, just kind of going through the game. Man, we're just rocking Cormacs right now. So that was kind of a nice thing, seeing all those crystals coming in for me. I'm trying not to call them rubies. I was like, they're red crystals. They look like rubies to me. We got 2 rares coming in here. Hopefully we don't go all the way to pity. I prefer to hold some rubies for next time. But we're on to our 30th pull here. Let's see here. Maybe we get, if it does take us to pity, hopefully we at least get 1 extra legendary along the way. So this could be her, it could be somebody else, but we got a copy coming in, hopefully. Let's see what we got going on. We did get an extra copy of her, so that is 2. So at this point we can keep pulling and try to get a 3rd copy of her. But that, I mean, we're kind of committing some resources there. We are going to be getting a few more of these guys. I think I'm going to do it. Might be against my better judgment, but we are going to pull. I think we can pull 30 on our way there, and then this is the beginning of the event too. So we might be able to get a couple more as we pick up rubies and stuff in other places, or potentially some of the raid up summons also. Another Cormac. I don't know, if you need Cormac right now, you should be pulling, because he's just dropping left and right. So let's go ahead and we're gonna get this guy here. Let's get lucky. So that'd be pretty good if we could get 1 in 30. Another Isolde coming in there, and Frederick, we got that guy. Where are we gonna be here? I guess we'll probably max this out too if we end up going all the way to pity again. But this is the last 10 pull of the day. Let's see if we can get lucky here or not. Let's see. No. All right, so probably committed us to pulling another 30, just because even if I get her to shiver level 6, getting that shiver level 7 for 30 pulls is probably worth it. So we'll jump over here into the shard shop. We're gonna have to pick up one of these guys, which we did get quite a few of the exchange, including, I think we scroll down, I have so many in here. So I have been stacking these guys up so I could sell to get a lot more of these, but I do want to make sure I'm in there every day picking up that rate up summons, because that's going to be super helpful as far as getting a little bit ahead of the game for some of these champions. In all that excitement, I missed my calculation. I only needed 2 copies of her, and then 3 more will get me to 5. So I was thinking I needed that 3rd copy, but I didn't. So I probably could have held on to my crystals. But anyway, that's okay. So we're going to go into the first chivalry here. Ashen Shackles is currently only working when she's using her first skill, which is when you're running out of vigor. Her in a vigor set, she'll never use this because she'll always get a second piece of vigor on her turn. So now we're going to be moving that into when using a skill. So on any of her skills, it's going to actually engage this with a 100% chance to grant each ally attack increase, and all Hound favorite allies 100% chance to do a co-op on the attack. This does have a 3-turn cooldown. So we're going to go ahead and put that on her there. I'm trying to think through if there'd be a benefit to testing her at every step like there was with Hild. With Hild, there was a lot of confusion about where her damage was coming from and how far you needed to take her to get to a point where she was smacking. I don't know that that's going to be the case, because all of the damage from the buff explosion is coming right here on the 4th chivalry, but I also don't want to just max her out and then come back and be like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that and actually done a video on the step process. So from step 1, I'm not thinking there's anything that's going to be super dramatically changing. We're just going to be getting this Spark of Disaster on when using a skill instead of her A1, and then with that on the 3rd passive, we have, if the target has Spark of Disaster, remove all of that debuff and add 100% chance to do damage dealt increase and 100% chance for attack speed decrease. So it's just going to be able to put this on a little more frequently, because every time she's using a skill, she has the potential of putting Spark Disaster on with that 3-turn cooldown. So every 3rd turn she's going to be putting that on and then stripping it off and putting those debuffs on instead. So I don't know there's really a way to kind of test that to see like, oh hey, this is a way better situation than what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and move on to her 2nd chivalry and get that on her as well. So on the 2nd chivalry, at the start of battle, 100% chance to grant each ally debuff immunity for 2 turns. I believe this is the same thing that Anya is bringing to the table. So yeah, with Anya, at least on her A3 for the Storm Relic, we do get that debuff immunity for 3 turns, which is pretty solid. And then this 3rd skill is actually triggered with all of her counter strikes, so she can keep that debuff immunity up pretty good. But that is a very solid buff to have on your team, so that's going to be a big win as we move over to Chivalry level 2 by getting that for 2 turns. On the 3rd chivalry here, we're getting Karmic Judgment, which is our 3rd passive skill. It's going to be an enhancement to it. Now we're going to get a 100% independent chance to grant each Hound's favorite ally damage dealt increase 2 for 2 turns. This is going to be huge for Claudus. It's going to be huge for our goofy Aqua Guinevere down here. So that's going to help them do a lot more damage if you have those guys built out. And you're also getting a 100% chance to reduce target's attack gauge by 100%. And I think this is going to work out really well alongside Morgan for added turn meter manipulation, especially for Tarask, just because of how fast the Stormcat moves, especially in Clan Raid. As you get into those higher levels, he is super fast. So this kind of stuff is going to be a huge win. Plus, it strengthens the attack speed decrease she's landing from the 2nd one to the 3rd one, which is going to make him a little bit slower and probably a little more achievable to be able to get where we need to be. So we're going to go ahead and get that one on her as well. But so far, all of these 3 are really just support things that she's bringing in. It's not really going to affect any of the damage that she's doing. Now that being said, I'm assuming when it says each of the Hound's favorite allies, that does include herself to get that extra damage dealt, but there's not going to be anything for the explosion as far as buffs or anything like that. So we are going to go move right on to Chivalry level 4. This is the one that I think is probably her biggest chivalry. On Baron Soul skill effect change, it changes buff removal to buff explosion. So the Baron and Soul is, I believe, her second ability. So it is her second passive ability, and it is specific to when you're using skill 2. So that's going to be right here. She does the depletion and the silence, but also now it's going to be buff explosion when using skill 2. The tough thing is, based on her kit, I think both skill 3 and skill 2 are both really strong, but it might be something you switch back and forth between because they are on cooldown. So you can only do this every other turn anyway, so you splash an A3 in there just to get that going on. So but we're gonna go ahead and get that put on her for that 4th chivalry, and that's, I think, when she's actually going to start being the most fun. So we're going to get her buff explosion going on and play around with it. We're going to go ahead and try it with Pierce. We're going to try it with defense down, attack down, all the good stuff, just to see how exactly that piece is functioning for us. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to chivalry level 5, and this one's kind of interesting. So it's upgrading the Ashen Shackles, where she does the co-op by having other Hound's Favor come in and attack. But instead of coming in with their A1, like all of the counter strikes, they're actually going to come in with their A2. Or I guess a lot of people are calling S2 for skill 2. I always said attack 2, so I don't know. But they're coming in with their second skill, which is going to be kind of interesting. So you put her alongside a Turin. A lot of times you don't use Turin's A2 because you're trying to actually get her to do her heals. But there's a lot of good buffs coming in on her A2, so that would be a pretty big win to help your team out. It also is going to reduce skill cooldown by 1 turn. So I think this is going to be a pretty cool one as well, but probably not quite as important as that chivalry level 4. But we're going to get that on her as well, and we got her to chivalry level 5, and we're going to hold on to those 20 memory stones for a rainy day. But we are going to go over into that event, pick up that extra copy, and get her to chivalry level 6. Chivalry power up here. We got some extra raid up summons there. That's not too shabby. So we got her right there with the banner. Let's see what we got. Oh, we got to go all the way to level 9 to get these 20. That's a far cry. I don't think we're making there. We will make it to 6, probably to 7, just because I'm halfway there for pity anyway. And on chivalry level 6, we're going to pick up 15% attack, which is going to be extremely helpful as we do the dot explosion, as far as getting a little extra damage out of what she's got going on there. So with her current build, I do have her as more of a support champion. We've got her in the vigor set as well as accuracy, trying to get some stats into that effect accuracy, because she does get added attack power based on her accuracy. So one thing that's interesting to note on her kit is her buff explosion is coming from her A2. So when she uses that, the passive skill is where that's going to trigger. But she does have on her 3rd passive, when using skill 3, she's getting added damage from effect accuracy. So if you are using her 4A exploder, having her in effect accuracy is not going to benefit that explosion, because that's not her skill 3, it's her skill 2. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, I can't imagine not wanting to build her in with effect accuracy, because she's landing so many debuffs. So I think you still want to have her with a solid effect accuracy, but you probably could move down a little bit, not focus so much on it. You'd probably focus a little more on attack percent. I don't think crit rate and crit damage have any effect on the explosion itself, but if you can get a defense down and increase damage taken on the enemy, I think that will make a difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave her build alone as I have her currently. She is kind of built as a support champion in a vigor and an accuracy set, really focusing on pushing that effect accuracy pretty high at 125. Her attack is kind of laughably low here at 3600. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to switch her into a damage build and see how much more damage she does. So I think we're going to go with this team here, and the reason we're going to go this route is we're going to test the defense down as well as the increased damage taken, with Morgan being able to drop both of those on there. We also have 2 Hound Favors alongside her to see about that co-op hit using their A2s. Unfortunately, my Aqua Guinevere here doesn't have any chivalries. She does have some gear on her and whatnot, but we're going to go ahead and push this through, and then I think we'll do it with and without Morgan to see the difference in the damage that the buff explosion is happening. I believe Thrym does put a lot of buffs up on himself, so hopefully we'll see that happen and we can see those getting stripped off. But we'll jump in here and take our time. We're going to take it off auto here. So we got our increased damage taken and our defense down right there, we're going to get an A2 technically from the co-op, but we don't need heals, so we're going to use an A2 anyway. In this case, this is not a buff. So I believe out of these three, I don't think either of these two are actually buffs, so they won't explode, but this one I believe would. So we're going to go ahead and give this a shot with the A2. Again, the A2 is going to, oh, it's a passive where the buff is coming in when she uses her second ability. So we're going to hit her, Thrym here with 194% of attack, inflict attack decrease 2 for 2 turns, as well as theoretically blow this buff up. So we're going to give this a shot and see how it goes down. So we come in here, we got 15, we got ally. So you saw Turin did that. Aqua Guinevere came in. We did not explode the buff, however, so this may not be a buff either. This could be a status effect or some other version where it's not actually going to explode, which is going to make it really hard to test this in this spot. So from here, we're going to go ahead and popsicle it up and batter up, smack, smack with a rubber duck. Moving on. Here we go. So here's a buff on him that's going to be able to explode. This is also Overwhelming Fear might be a buff that can explode, and I think these three might just be on him as far as what he's got going on. So we're going to go ahead, go back with the A2 for Morgan here, and then we're going to go, we don't need any heals, so we're going to go ahead and put these on even though they're already up. And we're going to go back with that A2 to see if we get some buff explosions here. I am going to slow it down. There we go. Just so we can see it a little better here. So we're going to come up here. We're going to smack them. I did not see any buff explosion. I didn't notice the damage. It didn't seem like it was excessive. I'm not entirely sure. Let's go ahead and we'll do it again. Alright, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that these guys are not qualifying as buffs. At least the buff explosion part of her kit doesn't seem to be working. So I think that that's going to be probably, maybe you zip over to Wiscalag to test that out. Something else that I was noticing though is she does have on the A3, she gets that co-op hit. A majority of the damage from this, and it does smack pretty good. Oh, let's see here. We got 82, and then everybody else comes in here, and we're going to get this well up to 150. I saw it over 200,000 on one of the hits there. But I do believe a majority of that is actually coming from Guinevere here on her A2 that she's co-oping with, because we got that upgrade. She's hitting for 19,000, 24,000 on that. So I think that that's going to be a big chunk of what's going on there, and also Turin's bringing her A2 in as well. If you happen to have Claudus decked out, then she's going to bring her A2 and smack as well. So that A3 is going to come in and be a pretty big hit for you. So one interesting thing about her kit that's kind of cool is when you're setting up these goes, like on Aqua Guinevere here, her A2 brings in a buff that you kind of want. You want that attack increase to come up. But when she does that co-op hit, she's going to be using her A2. So you don't necessarily need to spam it. You can just go straight for her A3. On Turin, she brings in some buffs here with her A2 with defense increase and effect accuracy increase. So, I mean, that's going to be a pretty big win that's coming in when she's running her A2, but typically you don't run her A2 because you're trying to get her in there to do the heals. So Brennan's in here just to drop his A2 to put a taunt on Thrym here so that he doesn't do that major hit. But I think by running this through on auto, I didn't show you what I'm doing here. I'm alternating between the A2 or the A3 and the A2 for Valla here. I think that'll probably be a fairly good strategy just because you're getting a little bit from both of those. I don't believe that buff explosion is functioning for these things that he's got on him right now. So we're going to go ahead and run this through, just kind of see what happens, and then I'll bring you back in. I think we're going to have to go over to Wiscalag. I think he stacks a lot of buffs on himself, and see if we can test the buff explosion over there. Alright, so I'm bringing you back in here. We got on super slow-mo going on here, but I did see the buff explosion actually take place. So if we take a peek at Valla, it's on a cooldown, so it doesn't happen every time. I think it's every other time she does her A2, but I think it might be on a 3-turn cooldown, so it might be a little bit. So this is her A3. She's going to smack here, get a little bit of extra help. Now we're not doing as much damage because we don't have defense down, increased damage taken, but only Turin joined her on that one, which is kind of interesting. I believe that's why people are using Urians. I think he's also Hound Favor, and he probably does something to prevent Thrym from doing his big smack, because his big smack just takes you out. But on this one here, I believe these two buffs right here and this are going to get exploded. When it's her turn. All right, so we got this. So we got these guys. So I think all of these are going to get exploded when she goes. Hopefully, she didn't go before him. Okay, but still. Here we go. So they do, let's see here. So there they did explode off. I didn't see the amount of damage they did, but they are gone. So that's going to be a pretty good situation there. I'm going to have to pause the video, go back and look to see what the damage is. Alright, so that buff explosion, I think it took off 3, maybe 5, but I think it took off 3 and it did 8,000 damage. So that's pretty sad. That being said, it did not have the increased damage taken and defense up. So we're going to give that a shot and see if that changes things. We're going to bring this back to level 1. She just did her A3. I don't think we have any buffs up that can explode yet. So we got to wait for some of the buffs coming in. So hopefully put some up right now. Let's see here. If that's so slow-mo. There you go. We got 2 buffs up there. So when she does her turn, we should be removing both of these and exploding. We do have these guys on, so we'll see what happens. This is our A2 coming in here, and we're at 16,000, jumped up to 22 after the explosion with the 2 buffs. So it is a pretty subtle little explosion. On her A3, however, with the assisted attacks and the defense down, she actually smacks pretty good. So if we come in here, we're going to smack 10,000, and we're going to come in with everybody else joining her. And nobody it was on a cooldown. It was on a cooldown. I was like, nobody joined her. That's not good. So with the defense down and the increased damage taken, that does affect the dot explosion. So that was one of the things that I was kind of hypothesizing, but I didn't know if that was the case. But now we do know that it does affect it, because without that, it was hitting at 8,000 versus 22. And I think there were more buffs on at that time when we got 8,000 than the 2 that she ripped off there. So this is painfully slow. Let's see if we can keep track of this going on. So right now we've got a few buffs going on. I think these are the only 2 we can strip off there. I missed the A3. I think the A3 is what I was waiting for. We did not get the buff explosion, so it's probably on cooldown. And we're going to smack here. I wish I would have done more chivalries on Aqua Guinevere, because I think this team, when you put it together, is going to be pretty monstrous. So there was the A2 there again. Let's see here. I'm actually going to get smacked real hard right now. Probably die. Oh yeah, everybody's dead. All right, let's start over. We'll go. We're gonna get this. We're gonna figure this out. So as we come in here, we're getting set up for that A3. You're gonna see we got the debuffs going on there. We're getting buffs going on our team. This is our A3 coming in, and it should smack pretty good. We go from 10,000, to 211,000 with the debuffs going on. We also got the attack speed down that we're looking for, minus 60%. That's going to slow him down big time, so that's going to be super cool in a lot of spaces there as far as getting that big attack speed down. And then when we bring in this guy, we blow up those, and I missed how much damage it did, but it probably wasn't super impressive. My guess is right around 20,000 or so. So that's what we got going on with her current build. Now we're going to go ahead and switch her into a damage build and see if that buff explosion picks up quite a bit. Alright, so we're going to move her over into Caliburn Arthur's build with Ascension and damage. On these guys down here, I am going to hold on to the effect accuracy. Probably want to move her into attack, but we are getting some crit damage crit rate here. I don't think that's going to affect the buff explosion though, because it doesn't have an effect on the dot explosion for Hild. And then attack speed, you could again go to attack here and just kind of really push those attack stats as much as you possibly could. We did move her over into a Pierce Banner, which does do makes a big difference with Hild, at least when she does her dot explosion, when she is in a Pierce Banner. So we're going to go ahead and try this build here and see what changes. 60,000 gold, that's brutal. Oh, cost me 60,000 gold to move that gear over here. That's crazy. All right, well, it is what it is. It's all in the name of science. So let's go ahead. We're going to go back in here, try this out, and see how this plays out. So let's go ahead. First, I think it's going to go into her. I'm going to take it off auto. So Morgan started there. We're going to start with her A3 because we have no buffs up to actually blow up. So we're going to go into here. We're going to smack. We were doing 200-ish thousand. Now we're 174, so that's on par. It probably just we missed a crit or something like that, so not a big deal there. So we're gonna go ahead and put our buffs up from Turin here, and then I don't know, we'll go ahead and hit her with that, with her silliness, all of her silliness. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and go after here, and then let's see, we should get some buffs popping up. There we go. We got 2 buffs up. So let's see. We don't have vigor. Oh, we took her out of her vigor set. That's no good. All right, so we're gonna go ahead, hit with the A1, and move on here. We do not need heals right now, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. Again, getting those buffs up. We're gonna hold on to our vigor so that we have what we need when we need it. And hopefully, oh no, he's super slow right now because we did get our attack speed. We landed that debuff, so that is a huge debuff, 60%. So he's basically running on 40% speed. It's pretty good. You couple that with her ability to bring 100% turn meter down and running alongside Morgan on a lot of enemies, you're gonna really be able to hit them quite a few times before they even get a turn. But we do have those buffs up there. Let's go into Morgan's A2 here. Hopefully land some additional, not yet. She's on a cooldown. This should be additional defense down. There we go. So we got defense down and increased damage taken. We're going to go for that A2. We don't have any buffs. Somehow we lost. Oh, I think Morgan strips buffs on some of that. She has a chance to strip buffs. So we're going to go with the A3 again because we have no buffs to strip. So we're going to smack that. And let's see if we can get up there. Oh, we didn't get it. Oh, it's on a cooldown. Oh, man. Oh. This is where those kits are just so complicated where you're like, oh, what the heck is going on? And it makes it tough, but you just got to kind of work through it and figure out exactly what's happening. So the cooldown on that, they didn't get any of the co-op. Nothing there happened. We're going to get smacked there. We did get some buffs up now, so let's do our A1 here. We do still have defense down and increased damage taken down. I don't think it's back up again yet. I think we got to do it again. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the buff explosion right now. We only have 2 buffs that are going to explode. And before we were hitting about 20,000. So here comes, we're at 33, and the explosion brought it up to 173. I'm confused as to why Turin did anything. Because I think that's only supposed to happen, the co-op's only supposed to happen on the A3. But we did do a lot more damage with the buff explosion, and there were only 2 buffs on Thrym here. So that is actually pretty substantially different, building her for attack. So we're going to try this again just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. We got to start it over here. We're going to start with the A3 because there aren't any buffs to explode. Get all of our teammates. They're coming in at the 212,000. So that's pretty solid. We're going to come in here with our buffs from Turin here because we don't need the heals quite yet. And then we're going to hold on to our vigor to make sure that we can do the buff explosion when it's time. Here we aren't going to be able to strip buffs with our A2, so hopefully we can get... no, they haven't fixed that cooldown yet either. Haven't got through that. So now we have buffs up. And we're going to go ahead and smack with this A2. Now, theoretically, we shouldn't get any co-op here. This should all just be her because her co-op comes from the A3, I think. But we're going to go ahead and smack. We're at 50,000, 61,000, and it did remove those buffs. So we got 51,000 plus an extra 10,000 from the actual explosion. But that is significantly better than what we were getting with 22,000. Alright, so I had to go back into her kit. So the co-op actually does happen anytime she's using a skill. So it is not attached to her her third skill. So that is what's going on with that extra damage. The buff explosion, from the best I can tell, is just not that impressive. Now, to be fair, we don't have somebody who's stacking up a bunch of buffs. So that could potentially be a bigger hit if we could get some with 5, 6, 7, 8 buffs on them and then have it detonate. It could potentially hit really hard. That being said, I do feel like the buff explosion is good as far as bringing the buffs off the enemy, as well as the co-op attack, I think is probably the stronger piece of her kit. But maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see this buff explosion working the way that I was hoping it would. That being said, it's very contingent on who you're going up against, because they have to put a bunch of buffs on themselves. So potentially this could work out a lot better in maybe arena. So we're gonna give this a shot. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna lose, but I want to go first. I think Morgan will be able to get me in front as long as Anya doesn't kill me with her counter strike. In fact, we're not even going to go that route because she's just going to die. We're going to go ahead and put Brennan in here so we at least survive the counter-strike. So she's not going to get any co-op hits because none of these guys are hound favored. But we will be able to do that smack with the buff detonation. So let's give this a shot and see how this works. So I think it is single. I'm assuming it's single target. So on these buffs going on here, that all should be pretty good. We're going to go ahead and slow them down. Probably go on Nika here. And then get the 2 debuffs going on. And we did get smacked. She got silenced. So she can't, or taunted. So she can't do her ability. So that sucks. I think that actually ties her up for 2 turns. Oh no, just 1. Okay, that's perfect. So we're going to go into here. I think we're going to try to stun Anya. That would be awesome. Although I think he's got buff immunity or whatever, so that's not going to work. Let's see if we can get this guy going. Just don't want her to be taunted is all I want. Maybe a sleep. Could we sleep Brennan so he doesn't taunt her? Come on now. Hopefully. I just want to try it. Please let me try it. There we go. Alright, so we got buffs on all these folks. This is going to be 1 enemy. So we get to pick the enemy. I feel like we're going to go after... Got barriers here. I guess we'll go after Brennan just because he doesn't have a barrier, and that way we don't lose the damage on it. But let's I'm trying to think if it's gonna work or not. But we'll go this route. So smack 13,000. I don't know. I'm not overly impressed with the buff explosion. Maybe somebody else can get it to work better than whatever I'm doing. But yeah, I do think she's a good champion. She has a lot of good debuffs that she puts up there. I think turn meter manipulation alongside Morgan's huge. And I think that co-op smack is huge if you build a whole team of hound favored allies. Specifically, I would be looking at if you happen to do Aqua Guinevere, she's going to be a really good combo with her, as well as potentially Claudus. And then I was going to take a peek at Urian's and see exactly why folks are using him over there in the Hall of Conquerors. Maybe I'm getting tired. It's approaching midnight, but I'm looking at Urian's here. I think his passives here with defense increase 2 are going to make him more durable. And then on this guy here, I don't even understand what this is even saying. Gain physical enhancement 1 for 1 turn. And physical enhancement changes damage to a certain value if target is hit. So, I mean, that seems pretty arbitrary. Like, what certain value is it changing to? So, I don't know exactly what that's doing. He does have a counter strike, which is going to be pretty beneficial. 100% chance to trigger when attacking when current HP is 40% or lower. So, it is going to be requiring that he's almost dead for this to actually engage. So, I guess you can use it twice afterwards, and then it cooldowns 5 turns once you actually upgrade it. But this, I mean, I'm assuming this smacks. But it doesn't exactly tell me exactly why it would smack, so that's kind of weird. As far as his Flame Relic is the one that they're using, he is a Hound Favor, so he's going to be getting that co-op, and it's actually going to be using his A2. But on the A1, he does hit and has 60% chance to do defense decrease 1 for 2 turns, which is actually going to be beneficial because his A3, I think he hits harder if they have defense down. And then on his A2, so when he's doing his co-op, this is what he's going to do. He's going to attack one enemy and do a pretty good amount of damage, actually. And then you build him with high HP so that he's getting that 6.9% of his HP on top of the 159% of attack. And then a 60% chance to defense decrease 2. So that will put the defense decrease down for 3 turns. So that way, then when target HP is lower, well, I don't know how frequently that's going to happen in Hall of Conquerors, because sometimes it's lower and sometimes it's above, and you keep taking them down. So it will happen sometimes. But he'll deal an additional damage one time for pretty good smack. but with that defense decrease on his A3, all right, I'm a bonehead. We're looking at his Frost Relic, so that's no good. But the A1 is, I think, pretty much the same with the defense decrease there. On the A2, this is where he deals additional damage. If the target has defense decrease, he's going to hit an extra time. Again, portions of his HP as well as attacks. You want to build that with high HP and attack. And then on this guy here, he's also putting defense decrease as well. The interesting part is when I look at like this team here, there's nobody that's doing taunting or freezing or stunning, so they're just eating that huge hit, and somehow they're still making it through there, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like you'd need to bring in a Brennan or somebody to stun. I'm assuming Flame Guinevere or Storm Revenant Merlin are going to bring in that feature for you to get through that massive smack. But, I mean, these guys are hitting. They're getting all 100 hearts, so something there's working out pretty well. So I think they're really banking on this 35% chance for the last hit to inflict stun on her A1. Which is kind of interesting. That doesn't seem like a very likely chance to make that happen. So with Revenant Merlin here, she does have a 35% chance on the A1 to stun, and you do have 2 turns to get through Thrym with some turn meter manipulation and slowing him down. So maybe that stun is landing pretty frequently. And then Guinevere is actually boosting co-op damage as well as shielding and doing some other stuff. So this team here looks like it's probably fairly achievable. I don't know how high into the chivalries you really need to get for all this to function properly. But you do have Valla there at the lead. So I think that she's probably in there as a support champion. So I'm going to go with, I must be a bonehead because all these folks are building her with speed and accuracy, at least for this particular fight. So my guess is they're not working too much on the buff explosion as much as just to strip the buffs off of the boss. But all these guys are in speed. I like how it's overlapping there. Speed with accuracy set. So I think it's going to be more similar to my build initially. Here's Vigor with... Oh, that's me. I clicked... Oh, no, that's not me. That's... Okay, yeah. So we got Vigor with accuracy, which is where I started. And I think as a support champion, that makes a lot of sense. But apparently running her super fast is going to be a benefit, which makes sense because she's cycling through those abilities. And if you could get some speed on her Vigor and accuracy set, that's not going to be a bad way to go. But you hear all the top players here, none of them are putting her in a damage build, probably because the buff explosion is not doing a lot of damage. So it's more about using her other abilities and pulling in that co-op damage, probably from Urian's here, because some of his stuff looked like it smacked pretty good. So I feel like we got a little bit derailed in that whole process. I was just really hoping to play with that buff explosion, and I was hoping that it would do something similar to Hild, but it clearly does not. I think if you've had an enemy who had 10 buffs on them, potentially it could really stack up some damage if you ran the damage build. But that being said, I think it seems like getting her as fast as you can, ideally in a Vigor set with accuracy, is going to be a better solution, and then teaming her up with other Hound favorite allies is really going to make the big difference. But hopefully you found that interesting. I kind of found it pretty eye-opening. I was really expecting that to be different. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm doing something super weird. So I am tired right now, so if there's something where I'm missing it, just let me know in the comments below as far as what you did to make her work or whatever the case is. But I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me all the way to the end of this video. It's gonna be a long one. I didn't get the result I was looking for, but we did learn some stuff, hopefully. So hopefully you found that interesting, and I look forward to seeing you next time.